okay, was literally trine, but also Pluto was trine to that. But Sun and Pluto are not conjunct, so we're going to kind of treat it separately. So we have Moon trine her Jupiter, so she's able to definitely learn from emotions. She's able to expand her through emotions optimally, optimistically, and it's kind of an easy thing. But when things don't, when it becomes comfortable, especially with those two placements, those two planets rather, all of a sudden like, something happens, and maybe anger might ensue, right? Sort of like issues about anger might ensue, and she goes, right? And then we have Pluto, which is, we know what Pluto is. Pluto is the abuse and misuse, the use, misuse, and abuse of power, power struggles, transformation, or rather regeneration. Um, so with that trine to Jupiter, she's also able to transmute or transform and regenerate through emotional, I guess, growth. Yeah, so she's able to go through that. It's through relationship, because we have Pluto in the 7th house, right? Pluto in the 7th house, that explains that. So her regenerative sort of abilities that trines to her Jupiter goes well with how she's able. That means that because it's in the because Jupiter is in the 4th house and Pluto was in the 7th house, let alone the moon as well, she's able to go through those growth through. It's like here's Jupiter and here's the moon and here's Pluto. So it's like Jupiter is guiding the two planets and saying, hey, let's be optimistic about it. Let's grow and grow and grow. Let's look at it from the optimistic point of view through how we relate with each other, through any relationship we have with people, any sort of agreements we have, open enemies. She's able to go through that stuff. But there's a big but here. Identity comes into play, and then sometimes she might question that and say, well, how? And say, so now her sun is now in square to Jupiter, so there might be some sort of issues with pride, issues with self-worth, and so not so much self-worth, yeah, but self-worth, but also limited. So it becomes limited now in terms of that. So she might feel like limitations with, because of her family ancestry, what she carried over from her family stuff over to relationships, any sort of like one-on-one relationship, any kind of like partnership, marriage, contracts, you name it, those kind of things, agreements with someone, shaking someone's hand, that's a 7th house stuff, right? It's because she's very much like open to that stuff with the conjunction here, Sun Mars, but then she starts to question like, does it, what can I get from this? What can I learn from this? Because Jupiter here conjunct squaring Sun, and also Chiron squaring Sun, it's a lot of the pride is an issue here. Pride is like sort of like, does that make me happy? Does that make me shine? Does that make me grow? And so with Chiron and Jupiter, they're in conjunction. Also, is saying, before you expand, question where your loyalties lie to yourself. What is it true for you? What is, like, Jupiter represents in old ways they said it represents fortune, right? But what does that mean exactly? What is fortune, right? If you look into it, optimism, growth, morality. See, morality, right? Aspirations, your idealism. There's fondness for animals here. Okay, so there might be some sort of judgment going on with herself. So self-judgment, I guess you can say reasoning, maybe over-processing everything, over-idealizing happiness, over-idealizing joy, and sort of like becoming too much focus. It becomes kind of dogmatic, right? And also doctrine. It's like kind of a doctrine. Oh, too much optimism is basically faith turned into, to be honest, like doctrine, religion. Right? It's no longer about the faith. It's no longer about optimism. It's about in oneself, and therefore that's why maybe the pain comes through. And Chiron here is saying, wait a second, because it's Cancer. It works towards. It's all about sometimes limitations might be applied because Cancer is afraid of exposing itself to being vulnerable, right? That's the crab, right? So when you extend that, when it becomes too much in relationship with other people, in Libra, it's almost like, I don't want to reveal too much. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to, so it becomes too cautious and traditional. It becomes too closed in and saying, no, me. So selfishness can also happen there. Becomes also, there's a bit of touchiness as well, particularly when it comes to pride. But because of the trine here, eventually she'll come to terms with that and say, wait a second, that's okay. I could die from it and say, I need to go through it and say, okay, that's fine. So her relationships for her, any sort of seventh house stuff, open enemies, she both has challenges with those things, both in herself, in her outer world, like Nadir and midheaven, but this is also where she learns the most, I would say. For me, I would say this is where it triggers her. It's both triggering and also lesson giving. It's also nourishing, I would say, specifically when what makes her shine. So, yeah. I want to look into more, because some people have asked this, but I wanted to apply this directly to someone's chart and look into the north nodes, so therefore the south node. So north node was in 24 degrees Aquarius, therefore it's 24, south node is 24 degrees in Leo. Opposite of mine, it's very interesting, because that means that north node in Aquarius means she needs to be in this path of learning to get along with people in her past, or in a past life, however you want to see it. She's used to that, or even her early life, she's used to being herself. She's used to being by herself, being independent, relying on herself, having that sort of like, I'm good. It's actually very interesting because it reflects a lot on the character she plays, right? The character of Captain Marvel, which is very interesting. It's like Captain Marvel is like that in the story, in the movie, not so much the comic, very much like that. And Captain Marvel likes to, has to be forced to be independent, in a way where pride is involved, where ego is concerned, and it's like, oh, no, I can do this, I don't need your help. That's the part. That's the thing she's used to doing. She's used to being alone and being able to shine. But then we have North Node in Aquarius saying, no, you need to get along with people. You need to learn how to work in a community, how to balance things, and say that even though you may know a lot of things, there's some things that you still can learn, right? Aquarius is all about change and all that stuff, but it's also about like that wisdom thing. That's like, we live in an information age, Aquarius, right? So with North Node there, for Brie specifically, it might be that she needs to get along with people in her social communities, like 11th house. So there's an issue there. And we have to look into North Node. Any sort of planets is also aspect to. We have square to Venus right there in Scorpio. Venus in Scorpio is vindictive. Venus wants to control relationships, in this case because it's in Scorpio, because it wants to feel like it can trust you and say, you have to trust me to take care of you. You have to trust me to have the power to have this, that I know what I'm doing, that I know that instinctively, even intuitively, of course, that I can guide you, I can protect you. And even if that's not the case, trust in the fact that I know, sorry, pardon my French, like really like, like, trust me. Just really trust me. I know the depths of what needs to happen. Most people who are like that, my mom has Venus in Scorpio. They just want to be trusted. They want to know that when you trust them, they can then extend forward to you and say, okay, now you trust me, then now I definitely will. I will do everything. I will give my life for you. I will protect you. All those things. So that kind of issues she has with 8th house stuff and transformation in her Venus, when she comes to terms of that, this is where she can transform in terms of also her North Node, because she's still probably learning through that and how to say maybe she needs to trust herself more before expressing that to others, like, right? So that's a very it's a shadow work thing. That's very important for people because Pluto rules Scorpio. It's a very Plutonian thing. So it's all about dying to oneself. In a way, this is because Venus is a personal planet. you also have to die to your own self-worth, to kill that self-worth and get rid of it, right? So Scorpio needs to learn that process as well, that it's like you need to die a lot of times in order for yourself to be free of the burden that you cannot trust people, you cannot open yourself up to people, all because they don't trust you first. Well, it starts from the inside, right? So this is what the North Node is telling me. Square to our Venus right there. We have a square here. So trusting relationships. And so that also comes into play, square into anything here, or technically her South Node. So it all comes together, where she has to learn how to know how to work with her past and bring it to the future, into her path now, and kind of balance that, right? And therefore now she can, once she finds that balance, there's a T-square here that we don't see. There's a T-square between the three, the South Node, North Node, and Venus right here. It's an unwritten or invisible, so to speak, T-square. So that's a big one for her as well. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much into this because I don't want to reveal every single thing, which is the fun part also. So in any case, I hope that was enlightening or insightful or anything at all. If you have any questions, type in the comments below. You know what to do. Okay, in any case, I will see you guys later.